By sunrise, 12 acres were gone. No warning, no storm, no machinery. Just silence and destruction. Rows of corn that stood tall the evening before were now ripped from the ground, roots exposed, soil torn apart like it had been plowed by chaos itself. Deep craters marked the field. Fences sagged. Water lines were crushed. The air carried that heavy smell of fresh mud, mixed with something worse. Loss. And this wasn't random damage. It was feral hogs. Across America, these animals are quietly waging war on farmland. Not dozens, not thousands. More than 6 million feral hogs now roam over 35 states. And every year, they cause between $1 to $2.5 billion in damage. Crops destroyed, pastures ruined, equipment broken, disease spread. Texas alone loses close to $900 million annually trying to fight them. But the numbers don't tell you what it feels like. What it feels like is walking your land at dawn and realizing months of work vanished in a single night. At first, the signs are small. A few tracks in soft soil. Minor, rooting near the tree line. Easy to ignore. Easy to underestimate. That's the mistake. Because feral hogs don't just visit once. They scout. They test. They learn. These animals are incredibly intelligent. They can detect human scent from hundreds of yards away. If one hog senses danger, the entire group adjusts. They remember trap locations. They circle downwind. They send smaller hogs forward first. And while you're fixing yesterday's damage, they're multiplying. A single sow can produce 6 to 12 piglets, twice a year. Do the math. Leave one breeding pair unmanaged, and in 5 years, you're not dealing with a nuisance. You're facing thousands. That's exactly what happened to us. What started as scattered rooting turned into coordinated nighttime invasions. Entire sections of crop erased before sunrise. Traditional methods didn't work. A few rifle shots scattered them, but they always came back. Smarter, more cautious, more destructive. We realized something critical. You can't fight a growing population, one hog at a time. You have to outthink the entire sounder. So we changed strategy. Instead of reacting, we studied them. Trail cameras went up along fence lines and water crossings. We tracked movement patterns for weeks. Not days, weeks. Entry points, wind direction, feeding cycles. We mapped their routes like a military operation. Every detail mattered. Bait placement wasn't random. It was gradual conditioning. Small amounts. Same time every night. No pressure. No sudden changes. The goal wasn't to catch one hog. It was to make them comfortable. Then one night, the cameras showed something different. Not 5, not 10. A wall of bodies moving through the dark. Large boars. Multiple sows. Dozens of piglets. An entire sounder. Heart rate spiked. Because this wasn't just damage anymore. This was the source. The gate stood open. The trap silent. No metal noise. No flashing lights. Just shadows drifting inside, noses testing the air. One wrong move, and weeks of preparation would vanish. But if this worked, it wouldn't just stop destruction. It would change the fight completely. And what stepped fully into that trap was far bigger than we expected. This wasn't just a trap. It was a test of patience. One wrong scent, one metallic clink, one shadow in the wrong place, and weeks of preparation would vanish. We didn't rush it. The structure was already in place days earlier, sitting quietly along a ravine where trails merged like highways. No sudden changes, no disturbance, just something new in their environment that slowly became normal. At first, the bait sat near the entrance. Night 1, they circled. Night 2, a few stepped inside, grabbed kernels, backed out. Night 3, more confidence. We didn't move. Every evening, The corn shifted a little deeper. Same time, same pattern. No pressure, no noise, no human presence. They began to trust it. That was the goal. Because you don't catch a sounder by force. You let them walk in willingly. And came the night everything changed. 2:07 a.m. The screen flickered as movement crossed the camera line. A large sow stepped out of the brush, shoulders rolling, nose cutting through the air. She paused, tested the wind. Behind her, more shapes emerged. 5, 10, 15. They flowed down the trail in a steady stream, grunts low and rhythmic, piglets weaving between legs. The sound of crunching corn echoed through the dark. Our heart rates climbed as the enclosure began to fill. 20, 25, 30. Still they kept coming. The entire ground inside the trap shifted with bodies pressing shoulder to shoulder. A massive boar with scarred flanks pushed in last, dominating space near the center. We waited. You only get one drop. Fire too early and half escape. Wait too long, and they sense something's wrong. Seconds felt stretched thin. When the final stragglers crossed fully inside, we triggered it. The gate slammed down with a heavy thud. For half a second, silence. Then chaos. Bodies collided. Dust exploded upward. Deep roars and frantic squeals tore through the ravine. The entire enclosure shook as hundreds of pounds of muscle slammed against steel. But it held. No gaps. No escape. Inside were more hogs than we had ever seen in one place. We started counting through the camera feed. 35, 40, 42, and still packed tight. What we thought was a moderate group was a full-scale invasion. Over 40 in a single drop. And that wasn't the end. Before dawn, a second alert flashed from another trail camera positioned along a parallel route. A smaller group, likely split from the main sounder days earlier, entered another setup. Another clean capture. By sunrise, across both sites, the number passed 60. 60 animals that would not return to tear through crops. 60 mouths no longer multiplying unchecked. For the first time in months, the fields were quiet. No fresh rooting. No torn irrigation lines. No overnight devastation. But what shocked us most wasn't the number. It was the realization. This wasn't random damage. It was organized pressure from a growing population that had mapped our land just as carefully as we had mapped theirs. And if we hadn't changed strategy, that number would have doubled by next season. This wasn't luck. It was patience, pattern recognition, precision timing. And it proved something critical. You don't win this fight by chasing hogs. You win it by thinking ahead of them. But removing 60 was only one battle. Because the real challenge? Making sure they never rebuild. And that's where things get even more serious. By sunrise, the land felt different. For months, mornings meant damage reports. Torn soil, broken lines, fresh tracks cutting through crops like scars. But that morning, silence. No overturned earth. No new wallows. Just dew resting undisturbed across recovering rows of corn. 72 feral hogs had been removed in a single coordinated operation. 72. Seeing them contain the night before was shocking. Seeing the fields untouched the next morning was something else entirely. Neighbors gathered quietly along the fence line at first light. No cheering, no celebration. Just long stares at the scale of what had been happening in the dark for months, without us fully realizing it. Massive boars with scarred shoulders. Protective sows that had been producing litter after litter. Young pigs that would have doubled the population within a year. That wasn't random destruction. That was exponential growth. It stopped in its tracks. For the first time in a long while, farmers didn't spend the morning calculating losses. They stood still, listened. Nothing. That quiet was a real victory. But success didn't mean relaxation. Because feral hogs don't disappear forever. They shift. They test boundaries. If pressure drops, they return. So we stayed ahead. More cameras went up along fence crossings and creek beds. Alerts were shared instantly between neighboring properties. If one farmer spotted fresh rooting, everyone knew within minutes. The strategy evolved from reaction to coordination. Instead of waiting for damage, we monitored movement. Instead of chasing individual hogs, We disrupted entire family groups. And when one trap failed, when a heavy boar forced a weak edge of paneling just enough to bend it, we didn't shrug it off. We reinforced everything. Steel staked deeper. Panels secured tighter. No weak points. Because these animals learn. And if they learn faster than you adapt, you lose. Within weeks, the difference was measurable without looking at numbers. Corn stands filled back in. Pastures stop resembling war zones. Livestock graze without tension. The land breed again. Costs dropped. Sleep returned. Patrols became routine instead of urgent. But then one evening, a new camera pinged. A small group. 3 shadows near the north boundary. Not a full sounder. Not yet. Just a reminder. This isn't a battle you win once. It's one you manage continuously. The real lesson wasn't just about trapping. It was about discipline. Study patterns. Control scent. Move deliberately. Think beyond tonight. Because if you ignore early signs, faint tracks, minor rooting, you're not dealing with a few hogs. You're watching the beginning of the next 72. Across the country, farmers are facing the same pressure. The damage doesn't make headlines. It happens quietly at night, but so can the solution. Silent setups, coordinated neighbors, whole sounder removal, constant monitoring. That's how you shift the balance. Not with chaos, with patience. If you've seen signs on your land, don't wait for acres to disappear. Start watching. Start mapping. Start thinking ahead. Because the difference between control and collapse is usually just a few nights of inaction. The fields are quiet for now, but the fight never truly sleeps. Stay ready.